Pennsylvania by far is the most corrupt state in America, and after watching this documentary you will know why. In 1981, Democrat U.S. Congressman Michael Ozzie Myers was one of 6 members of the House of Representatives caught in an FBI bribery sting called Abscam. Myers was sentenced to 8 years in prison. January 22, 1987, Democrat Pennsylvania State Treasurer Bud Dwyer pulled a .44 caliber revolver out of a paper bag and committed suicide during a live press conference in Pennsylvania State Capitol. Dwyer was to be sentenced the next day on a bribery conviction. In 1993, newly elected Democrat mayor of the city of Philadelphia, Ed Rendell, hires political crony and convicted felon Michael Ozzie Myers to a supervisory position in the warehouse for the Board of Elections. Also in 1993, Democrat PA State Senator William Stinson was removed from office because he was convicted of voter fraud to obtain his elected office. Stinson was replaced by Bruce Marks, his Republican opponent. October of 1995, the Philadelphia Inquirer's digital edition posted an article indicating that hundreds of dead people had voted in Philadelphia during the 1994 midterm election. From 2000 to 2006, armed members of the new Black Panther Party stationed themselves outside polling locations in white neighborhoods in Philadelphia to intimidate white voters. They were indicted by the Bush administration Justice Department, but the charges were vacated by Obama Attorney General Eric Holder. In 2004, Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell allows the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to issue ID cards to non-U.S. citizens, including the undocumented. December of 2009, Democrat state legislator Stephen Stetler of York pled guilty to theft and voter fraud. February of 2015, Pennsylvania Treasurer Rob McCord pleaded guilty to bribery and extortion. August 15, 2015, Reading's Democrat City Council President Francis Acosta entered a guilty plea to bribery. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. February 2016, Philadelphia School District CEO Shaka Fattah Jr. was convicted of fraud and embezzlement. He served 60 months. Keeping things in the family, in July of 2016, U.S. Congressman Shaka Fattah was convicted of 23 counts of racketeering and bribery. He served only 4 years of a 10-year sentence. Later that same month, Pennsylvania Treasurer Barb Hafer was charged with bribery, but was allowed to plead guilty to lying to the FBI. She is the second Pennsylvania treasurer to be indicted in 18 months. August 15th, 2016, Pennsylvania Attorney General Kathleen Kane, while still in office, is convicted of criminal conspiracy, perjury, and obstruction of justice. September of 2016, Democrat state legislator representing Philadelphia, Leslie Acosta, pled guilty to stealing over $623,000 from a nonprofit clinic in closed courtroom. She actually was so arrogant, she thought she could hide the plea from the state legislature and continued on campaigning for re-election. While keeping things in the family, Acosta is a cousin of Francis Acosta, Redding's City Council president. November 2016 presidential election has a 59% voter turnout statewide. There were precincts in the city of Philadelphia reporting more votes cast than they had registered voters. In 2017, a whistleblower claimed the PennDOT motor voter program had registered over 200,000 illegal aliens to vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania when they applied for non-driver identification cards. June 29th, 2017, Philadelphia's District Attorney Seth Williams is convicted of bribery. He served 3 years of a 5-year sentence. In May of 2017, Barbara Hafer pleaded guilty to stealing $500,000 from her political action committee. She was sentenced to 36 months of probation. This was her second guilty plea in 10 months. Also in 2017, Philadelphia City Councilman Bobby Heenan and President of the Philadelphia Electrical Workers Union, John Doherty, were indicted on embezzlement, bribery, theft, mail fraud, voter fraud, and campaign finance violations. February of 2018, a nonpartisan voter integrity organization based in Indiana filed suit in federal court to get information regarding over 100,000 non-citizens registered to vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. March of 2018, Allentown Mayor Ed Pawlowski was convicted of bribery, money laundering, and conspiracy. August of 2018, Reading Mayor Vaughn Spencer was convicted of 11 counts of bribery, money laundering, conspiracy. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. At the time of his conviction, he was also being investigated on a probe regarding federal campaign finances. February 2019, Reading School Board President Rebecca Acosta entered in a guilty plea for bribery. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Rebecca Acosta is the spouse of Francis Acosta, former Reading City Council President. August 19th, Philadelphia Sheriff John Green is found guilty on theft and embezzlement charges. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 2019, a Pennsylvania Auditor General report misleadingly indicates that there were only 11,000 non-citizens registered to vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. December of 2019, State Representative Movita Johnson, who represents part of Philadelphia, was convicted of embezzlement of $500,000 from a charity. She used the money on travel expenses, mink coats, and a Porsche. Subsequent to this conviction, it was discovered that Johnson also stole nearly $500,000 from the Victims' Compensation Fund. January 2020, Philadelphia City Councilman Kenyatta Johnson was indicted on embezzlement charges. An April 2022 trial ended in a mistrial. Johnson's second trial in 2023 ended in an acquittal. Johnson is now serving as Philadelphia's City Council President. During the 2020 COVID outbreak, Pennsylvania Health Secretary Rachel Levine repeatedly overstated the number of deaths due to COVID in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. After the March 2020 decision to allow COVID-positive patients to be readmitted into nursing homes, Levine pulled his mother out of a nursing home and put his mother into a hotel with round-the-clock nursing care. In the run-up for the 2020 presidential race, the Philadelphia Inquirer published a story indicating that there were 289 fraudulent voter registrations in fictitious names such as Darth Vader and Mickey Mouse. June 6, 2020, just 4 days after the presidential primary, Michael Ozzie Myers was indicted on bribery and voter fraud charges for paying judges of elections in Philadelphia to add votes from the 2014 to the 2020 primary. July of 2020, devices used to calibrate voting machines were stolen from the Philadelphia warehouse where Michael Ozzie Myers had worked. This information was kept from the public until less than 5 weeks before the presidential election. September of 2020, Pennsylvania House Republican Caucus releases a scathing report detailing widespread voter fraud in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. September 17, 2020, the Democratic Party sues the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to unconstitutionally change state election code less than 90 days before an election and without legislative approval. October 2020, Scranton Mayor Bill Courtright is convicted of bribery and money laundering. He is sentenced to 7 years in prison. October 14th, 2020, it is reported that nearly 29,000 Allegheny County voters received the wrong mail-in ballots. October 15th, 2020, the FBI raids the offices of the Philadelphia Electrical Workers Union looking for evidence of witness intimidation. It is speculated that they were also looking for stolen devices used to calibrate voting machines. November 3rd, 2020, Election Day. 66% of eligible voters cast a ballot. 365,000 votes were cast by mail. As in prior elections, there were precincts in the city of Philadelphia that had more votes cast than they had registered voters. August 11th, 2021, Pennsylvania General Assembly transportation hearing was held regarding 160,000 illegal aliens that have obtained driver's licenses in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and have been registered to vote in the process. This means that between the identification cards and the fraudulent licenses, anywhere between 300,000 and 400,000 illegal aliens could have registered to vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. January 2022, Philadelphia City Councilman Bobby Heenan and Philadelphia Electrical Workers Union's president John Doherty were convicted of 10 counts of fraud, money laundering, and bribery. Their sentence was delayed 2.5 years after their conviction. It is believed they have become cooperating witnesses in a broader probe. They were each sentenced to 6 years in prison in May of 2024. April 2022, federal court ruling in Pennsylvania for illegal voters shows evidence that a citizenship law should be passed requiring proof of citizenship when registering to vote. May of 2022, Philadelphia Judge of Elections Dominic DeMora entered a guilty plea on voter fraud, bribery, conspiracy to deprive persons of civil rights, and criminal conspiracy. June 2022, Ozzie Myers pleads guilty to election fraud involving the 2014 and 2016 elections. Due to his age and health, he will most likely never see a day in jail. The unconstitutional changes in Pennsylvania election code remained in place during the 2022 midterms. Josh Shapiro would be elected governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. August of 2024, the Pennsylvania State Legislature passes changes to the state election code, essentially codifying the unconstitutional changes made 4 years earlier. October 2024, Lancaster County election officials discover 2,600 fraudulent voter registrations on their voting rolls. In the following weeks, large amounts of fraudulent registrations were found in Berks, Cambria, and York counties. The applications had false names and addresses on them. The fraudulent applications were traced back to an Arizona-based group with ties to the Democratic Party called Field Media Corporation. October 2024. The Supreme Court of the United States orders the Bucks County Board of Elections to extend early voting because of voter suppression by election officials by closing the polls while people were still waiting in line to vote. In summation, it has become impossible to determine when the last time there was an election held in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania without any fraud.